Now, just in case you didn't know, yesterday, the 15th of September, was World Afro Day, and it's been marked as such globally for 5 years. It's endorsed by the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, and according to Michel de Leon, the founder of the day, it's supposed to be a global day of change and education and celebration of Afro hair and identity. You may not know it, but there is a lot of bias against Afro hair in Western culture, particularly in schools in Europe and the US, where black and brown people tend to be in the minority. So there is a political element to Afro Hair Day, which was founded to celebrate Afro hair and try to change negative attitudes towards Afro hair. Well, to tell us more about this, I'm joined now in the studio by the founder of the African Hair Summit and the Afro Hair Culture Festival, Adanna Enwezor. Thank you very much indeed for coming in.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us why World Afro Day is needed. Why is it necessary to have a day dedicated to Afro hair?
I think, first of all, I think it serves as a good reminder of who we are as Africans. And again, I think it's a day that has been set aside to encourage more women to embrace their African heritage, their Afro hair culture, celebrate their identity, own their identity. This is who we are. Our Afro hair grows right out of our heads. We don't need to pay for it. And I think the more we begin to fall in love with who we are, I'm talking about in terms of the color of our skin, the texture of our hair, I think the world will fall in love with us.
That's a very good point. But of course, technically, in Africa itself, I mean, there are lots of people who wear natural Afro hair, and people have been caring for black hair for thousands of years. So is this more of a diaspora thing, this celebration of Afro hair? Because in the Western world, I mean, there's a lot of ignorance amongst non-black people who don't appreciate or know how to care for Afro hair.
Well, I don't think it's a Western, issue. I think, again, there's a history of, colonialism and how, we have been made to think that we're not beautiful enough. Our hair.
The black hair is inferior.
The black hair isn't great, and there's something wrong with it. You have to keep altering it. You have to keep changing your looks. You have to keep almost subduing your person, to fit into certain standards of beauty. European standards of beauty and all of that. And I think we are also feeling the effects of that here in Africa. Obviously, this started, in the Western world. We saw this through slavery, and obviously, if people want to take over your land, your will, and everything, they will have to subdue you.
Absolutely.
To an extent. So I think. What we're seeing now is almost a type of neocolonialism, if you ask me, because, I mean, why? Why are we still having this conversation right now in 2022?
That's a very good point. And we've seen, I mean, talking about the West, I mean, we've seen sometimes when teachers in schools in Europe or the US, where it's much more direct, I mean, react adversely when a black student comes in with a massive barnet. You know what I mean? Yes. Their Afro hair all combed out, that sort of thing. I mean, so Afro Hair Day, according to Michel de Leon and of course yourself, I mean, you worked with Michel de Leon, who founded Afro Hair Day, is to help educate people to understand and respect this and guard against hair discrimination.
Exactly. And I'm really happy with the progress that is being made because obviously we have different political systems and different ways that our societies are dealing with these issues. Right now in the US, I think it's been passed, the law has been passed that criminalizes hair discrimination. First of all, it started in California, and obviously it's moved to New York, and I'm hoping that this can spread across because it's a big topic, it's a big issue. It's affecting the self-esteem of a lot of women, a lot of Africans, and even if you're not a woman, even the men, I think you're going to feel bad if your race is being treated,
Absolutely.
In a very discriminative way.
But you have to be aware of it.
Absolutely.
It's much more subliminal in Africa, isn't it?
It is actually. Here, I think we're really, and with the advent of social media, there's a lot of rave about, buying hair extensions or human
Right.
hair and the quality of human hair from whichever part of the world you're buying this from. So here, I think it's more of a thing of a status. Like if you wear your natural hair, sometimes people feel like you don't have enough money, or
Yes.
you're just not stylish enough, or there's something wrong somewhere. They can't really figure it out until you have something else on your head. But we're here to change the narrative. African Hair Summit has been on since 2016. And what we've been doing, we've started awareness campaigns through our summits, our festivals. And we are really, really, happy for platforms like Arise TV that is also giving a voice to these initiatives to get people to remember once again that we're first Africans. This is who we are. And now the younger ones, the children, are looking up to us. We want an Africa that will exist in 10 years from now, and we still have the younger ones looking African. We're not struggling to identify who's African or who's not. So, and to add to this, we're actually having our festival on the 1st and 2nd of December, which is another big celebration of our Afro hair culture. And we want to see more people embrace this movement and join this conversation. Because apart from the issues, the political issues, there's also economic issues that are not being talked about. And I keep telling people, the more you embrace your identity, the more you find the business opportunities that lie within this space. Because now people are embracing the natural hair. Some people are even thinking about the business. A lot of people who started attending our summits in 2016 are now business owners in the beauty industry. And what does this say? This means that there's, a growing demand for natural hair products. So there's a market, there's an opportunity for people to key into this sector and begin to think of ways to, explore the business opportunities. This is a non-oil sector, so I think it should also be promoted as much as possible because it has the potential to eliminate poverty and unemployment within the society.
That's a very interesting assessment that you've given there, which I'm sure a lot of people haven't thought about it that way. But this is also important, I mean, because to a lot of people, they'd be wondering, why are they talking about the politics of hair when we've got more important things to discuss? And it seems like a frivolous subject, but it actually speaks to a whole host of issues.
Absolutely.
As you correctly pointed out, about how Western society and popular culture see black women and black people, and how black women are constantly told that their hair in natural form isn't good enough. And you're here to debunk that myth.
Absolutely. Our hair is beautiful. That it doesn't grow like the Caucasian hair doesn't mean that it is not gorgeous.
But you had a particular experience yourself, didn't you?
Yes,
about,
I did.
How you got into sort of wearing your hair naturally.
Exactly, because I was also, like many people, I used to think there was something wrong with my hair. And there's something we call, when you're in the habit of straightening your hair, and then you have like the natural hair starts growing out. We call it undergrowth. People call it undergrowth, and it's almost like, oh my God, I have undergrowth. But that's your natural hair coming out, and you want to run to the salon and quickly kill that, thing you're saying. I think it's an identity crisis of some sort.
Yeah, it is an identity crisis.
And for me, I'm happy that I, woke up from that sleep, and I've really, jumped into this movement, and I'm here to let people know that there is true beauty in embracing your full identity as an African. Right.
But you didn't actually tell us the experience. I mean, what actually happened
had
to you?
For me, it was, my personal journey was, at that time I used hair texturizers, and I know people were saying, oh, they were a bit mild. They were not as harsh as relaxers, but I got severely burned, and that kind of, pushed me into doing my research. I needed to know what was the ingredient in this product. Why was it so toxic? Why does it burn a lot of people? You hear people complain a lot about hair burn. We have that everywhere. Some people are losing their hair. Some people have bald spots from extreme, relaxers
use of
and
chemicals.
Exactly. Basically. And so that was my experience. And then to my surprise, I think also according to the American Journal of Epidemiology, it was stated that the black hair and beauty industry was linked to a lot of illnesses like cancer, fibroids, etc. So for me, it was a rude awakening.
Absolutely.
I was like, people need to get this message.
So beyond the politics, there's a health concern.
There's a major health concern. And now if you look at what is going on in Africa, there's high rates of cancer, there's high rates of fibroids. I mean, people who haven't even had children are dealing with so many sicknesses that we don't even know where they're coming from. I think it's time we all wake up and begin to address some of these things. We need to pay attention to what we're doing to our hair and our skin as African people.
That's a very important point. So before we go, what do you say to those who choose to straighten their hair or who wear weaves and hair extensions and essentially prefer to wear some other person's hair?
So I am not here to condemn anyone, but what I would say is that, you know, some people use hair extensions sometimes because even African hair sometimes use hair extensions to change
to enhance
exactly.
It.
Right. You know, you have different African hairstyles. Sometimes you can have the Fulani hairstyle. You can use hair extensions to replicate that and all of that. So it's not an issue. But what we're saying is that at least 90% of the time, let's know you're an African woman. Let your children look up to you. Let the younger ones be able to look up to us in the society and know that we are actually very comfortable in our skin, and you know, we become examples to them. So I'm not condemning anyone, but I'm saying at least let us be African 90% of the time.
Thank you very much indeed. Very interesting talking with you. That's Adanna Enwezor, who's the founder of the African Hair Summit and the Afro Hair Culture Festival. And she's talking to us on the occasion of World Afro Day, which is marked this week and has been marked for the last 5 years.